Okay, not gonna lie, a part of me suspects that the reason that the School Days video did as well as it did is because it was a season opener. But the results don't lie. So at this point, why the heck not? Let's take a look at the very next episode, The Mod Couple. A story centered around everyone's favorite social butterfly, Pinkie Pie. Gotta love how instead of actually focusing on the School of Friendship, we're back to stories that focus on the main six. This time it's Pinkie Pie who's effectively serving the role of the main six in Season 4's Mod Pie. Yeah, remember that episode where Pinkie Pie's sister Maud comes to town and her friends struggle to connect with her? The Mod Couple introduces Maud's boyfriend Mudbriar, and Pinkie Pie struggles to connect with him. Yeah, it's a wonder why these two episodes are so similar in that regard. Let's start with the things I liked about this episode. I thought the dry banter between Maud and Mudbriar was actually really funny. Gotta love how their little conversation was literally over sticks and stones. I thought the timing to some of Mudbriar's dialogue was also pretty good. Pinkie Pie's delusion on Twilight never learning how to read got a pretty big laugh out of me too. And it was pretty nice to see Pinkie Pie's sisters back on her farm again, namely in Marble and Limestone Pie. Plus, the way they teach the lesson to Pinkie Pie is actually fairly creative. I just wish this episode did a better job actually justifying getting to that point because, oh my god, this episode is bad. Yeah, I'm normally really big on dry humor, but this episode just was not doing it for me. Yeah, some jokes did land, but this episode as a whole actually just felt really repetitive. There's a number of scenes where there's just nothing of substance actually happening, and they generally involve Starlight, where Pinkie Pie is just venting her frustrations to her. Which I get it's because that Starlight and Maud are actually fairly close as far as friends go, but considering the one who's actually doing the venting, I find it impossible to believe that Pinkie Pie wouldn't already know better. And if Pinkie was talking to any of her other friends, she would be the most clear hypocrite this side of the earth. Starlight herself even brings up that one thing that Mudbriar and Pinkie Pie do have in common is that they both love Maud. Which was good enough for Pinkie Pie's friends back in Season 4, but it doesn't seem to be good enough for Pinkie Pie here. It paints Pinkie Pie as beyond the rational, where she just comes off as a possessive negative element of turbulence. The irony is that this type of behavior is what Twilight most likely assumed she was acting like in Griffin the Brush-Off. Where straight up, Pinkie Pie should have to work on her attitude. Especially since for her specifically, this is highly unbecoming. Pinkie Pie is a social butterfly who takes great pleasure in the happiness of others. By that same token, it should not matter to her that she's struggling to connect with Maud's boyfriend. And for that matter, this is a lesson that Pinkie Pie really had no business learning in the first place. If you remember back to A Friend Indeed, that episode put massive emphasis on Pinkie Pie's main reason for living, making others smile. And both that episode and Party Poof go on to show just how far Pinkie Pie is willing to go to achieve that. You also have Season 4's Pinkie Pride, which already explored the idea of Pinkie Pie being outdone by another pony in regards to being the best pick for the job. It's actually really hard to find specific things to talk about that are negative about this episode, because so much of it is derivative. Even the idea of what being best for Pinkie Pie doesn't necessarily mean it's the best for everyone else is not original. That came from Rock Solid Friendship in Season 7. I think the most original negative I really have to say regarding this episode is that how Mudbriar and Pinkie Pie met makes absolutely no sense. Pinkie meets Mudbriar in a bakery where she's trying to get ingredients to make Maud's birthday cake, despite the fact that she works at Sugar Cube Corner. Heck, she freaking lives there. And Mudbriar ends up eating up all of her time so that she can't actually make the order she needs to make. Like, why are you going to a different bakery instead of picking up a cake from somewhere else, or better yet, making the cake yourself? Pinkie has been a master of her craft at baking ever since she was a little girl, so it's inconceivable that she would need outside help to achieve that. It's a really bad plot hole, and because of this, the way that she and Mudbriar get off on bad terms is unnaturally contrived. If you cannot imagine, I did not enjoy this episode, which is a really big freaking shame, because I really like seeing Maud reappear in this show. And being around Mudbriar, I don't think I've ever seen Maud ever smile this much before. But Pinkie Pie, she just sours the whole freaking thing. I'm kinda stuck between calling this an okay or nightmare episode, because while I do want to like this episode for Maud, everything else just does not jive with me. But ultimately, I think what really killed this episode for me is just that this is already not a very fun concept for a story in general, since Pinkie Pie throughout the entire thing is just very dislikable, what with her not allowing Maud to get a word in, being insufferably judgmental, and generally just being all around unpleasant. It really brings to mind Grand Pair back from The Perfect Pair, which should really tell you how bad I perceived Pinkie Pie to be in this episode. And heck, I don't even really like Mudbriar all that much. His mannerisms, if anything, are just really annoying with how he often feels the need to correct others over the most minor stuff. I don't think it necessarily makes him bad. If anything, it gives shades of autism. And I can at least see how he's similar to Maud, where it makes sense why they're a couple. It really just comes down to not liking Pinkie Pie in this episode. Honestly, it's a shame. There was a golden opportunity to show how Pinkie Pie could tolerate Maud and her dry mannerisms due to being her sister, but not others who act like Maud. Because in doing that, Pinkie Pie would actually be able to build up some empathy for others who may not necessarily be able to find Maud as funny as she does. I have to imagine that would be a much better story than what we actually got. Overall, I'm not a fan. But that's just me. What did you think of this episode? Did you like the Maud couple? Did you dislike the Maud couple? Let me know in the comments down below. And I guess at this rate, I'll see you next time when I review Fake It Till You Make It. Until then, thank you for watching.